Greetings Guardians, my name is Byf here. So I wanted to make this video because it's an important note about the way sword logic seems to function. It implies that the Hive of Savathun's brood still believe in sword logic, which is pretty evident this season, but it also implies something more important, which is that there is a clear philosophical difference between what they consider the final shape to be and what the Witness considers it to be, and that this conception of the final shape renders itself across all Hive and is completely separate from the Witness. Today we're going to explore a terrible interaction between two Lucent Hive that really reveals this, but also it thoroughly refutes the notion that the Hive and their sword logic absolutely has to be tied to the Witness's influence. It's a little bit technical, but on this rests a really important principle. The Hive laws do not intrinsically bind them to the Witness. Their final shape is not its final shape. And upon that principle lies the possibility of stripping the Witness of its most powerful general, Xivu Arath, the Hive God of War. So, what is the Hive version of the final shape? In fact, let's pan out a little bit more. What is the final shape generally? I was thinking of using Toland's classic Three Queens explanations here, but that applies much more to the sword logic than it does to the final shape, so I'll simplify things even further. Eris Morn puts it incredibly simply at the end of the Duality Dungeon. Take a quick listen.
And so Callus's truth is laid bare. From his rise, to his fall, to whatever it is he is becoming now, Callus is seeking transfiguration. He believes it will help him better understand the goals of the Witness, the final shape. This is something I have heard spoken in Hive Apocrypha, and from the lips of Toland the Shattered. According to the Hive, the final shape is that which remains when all that can be removed has been removed. It is as vague a notion as it is fascinating. If this is the Witness's true endgame, we must strive to understand it. And in that understanding, perhaps we can prevent the second collapse.
Now, I'll emphasize again, that quote from Eris is very Hive-centric, but the essential concept is all there. The final shape is the only necessary thing left at the end of the universe. In other words, it is what will exist at the end of all things. From here, the meaning of the term for the Witness and the Hive varies dramatically, and it shows us that the Witness has used vague notions of its philosophy to create an obedient and deadly servant species in the form of the Hive. So, let's go ahead and talk about that differentiation. What does the final shape mean to the Witness? This we'll call final shape Alpha. The final shape was the goal that the Witness's precursor people pursued, where they would be able to control the light and the dark through the Veil and the Traveler's Union, and therefore could use both the powers of light and dark to reshape existence and control the random chaos of the light. This would be what brought about the final shape, a universe without suffering. This is also what the Witness still pursues, and in order to create this final shape, they would need to bring about a whole new existence, ending the universe that they currently occupy, ending all existence to begin with. All unnecessary suffering would be removed, and thus the final shape would be brought about. The final shape is their version of the ultimate new creation of a universe without suffering. The Hive, on the other hand, have a very different final shape. We'll call this final shape Gamma, because Beta and Beta is something that's pronounced differently in the US and UK. To the Hive, the final shape is not, as is described by the Witness, it's not that pursuit of an end state where the universe no longer has suffering. In fact, it's something which has a lot of suffering. All of it arises because of the sword logic, and the final shape is only possible through the sword logic. The Hive believe that life must prove its right to exist or forfeit their existence. In doing so, only strong life survives. Let's say you have 1 million people playing Crucible, and in the first round, half of them get knocked out, and now there's just 500,000 people left. And let's say you match them all up again, and the number halves again. You could repeat that process until eventually you are left with only one player. In this metaphor, that one surviving player is the one who best proved their right to survive and exist. That, to the Hive, is what the final shape will look like. It is what is left at the end of the universe when all other things have been cut away by Sword Logic's decree. But when you take a look at our two definitions of the Final Shape Alpha and Final Shape Gamma, you start to realize that they don't mesh at all. They're both framed as an answer to the question of suffering and the ultimate question of the universe, and as a means of creating the ultimate state of being at the end of time. The difference is that the Witness pursued the Final Shape for control and the ability to reduce suffering by removing chaos. The Hive, on the other hand, embraced that suffering and that death as a necessary part of the process of sharpening the blade and achieving the Final Shape through doing so. The Witness would achieve the Final Shape all at once if it could, and would initiate the end of the universe right then and there. The Hive, however, believe that the process of suffering and strengthening through the Sword Logic is utterly necessary for the Final Shape to take place. I think Immaru puts all of this most succinctly here, where he describes the Hive's Final Shape and what the Witness believes the Final Shape to be. Take a listen.
The Final Shape, the way we think about it, it's the winner. The one who's so smart or strong that they beat everybody else. The Final Shape may not be the most interesting or best looking or whatever, but it's the one who makes it to the finish line again and again. It's the best at what it does. The Witness's Final Shape isn't like that. It's just flat. It's static. It's a forced ending. Like winning a game by turning it off. Forever. Ugh. And gives me the heebie-jeebies.
So here we are, with a really unique opportunity for the first time to see the Hive split from the Witness on ideological grounds, and it's all because of this. Xivu's version of the Final Shape requires the Sword Logic. The Witness's does not. They are fundamentally different if you really break them down. If it could be shown to Xivu Arath that the two are different and that the Final Shape as the Witness sees it is independent of that which the Hive have been building, then perhaps it might be possible to force her to split from the Witness's cause. More importantly, if it's shown that the Witness has been consistently lying to Xivu about the great battle that awaits her, it might make that job even easier. This all raises the question: can the concepts of the Sword Logic and the Final Shape exist independently of the Witness? And the lore tells us that the answer is yes. In the hexed shell from this season, we see what is perhaps the ultimate proof of this. Savathun's brood, the Lucent brood, Lucent Guardians in particular, have still been practicing the Sword Logic. They have still been moving towards their own version of the Final Shape, but they are most certainly not allied with the Witness. This is all displayed in the lore tab of the Ghost Shell from this season. Again, it's called the Hexed Shell, and it reads as follows. The knight wrenched his cleaver from the skull of the fallen wizard. His opponent's body twitched and sizzled with latent arc energy. He raised the blade above his head, saluting the statue of the Witch Queen that loomed above them. Existence is worthiness, the knight intoned. That which cannot defend itself must die. This is the one true shape. Ayat. The knight's salute went unanswered, as expected. The small stone chamber lapsed into silence. It had been thus for as long as he could remember. A fragile bringer of light materialized in the air above the wizard. The knight quelled the urge to reach out and crush it. This restraint was the Queen's only decree. The wizard screeched with rage as she was pulled unwillingly back into consciousness. Her eyes flew open, blazing with fury. Her opponent crouched warily, his cleaver still smoldering with soulfire. The wizard propelled herself upward, mustering her light into crackling arc bolts. She released them upon the knight, who erected a barricade to intercept the blast. In his moment of defensiveness, the knight lost sight of the wizard. When he lowered his barricade, he discovered a ball of arc energy pulsing at his feet. It exploded, burning the flesh beneath his chitinous armor to a blackened char. The wizard hovered over the knight. His smoking corpse filled the chamber with acrid fumes. She raised her clawed hand toward the silent statue. "Existence is worthiness," she intoned. "That which cannot defend itself must die. This is the one true shape. Hayat." So yeah, the Hive there are Lucent Hive Guardians who are talking about the one true shape, which is exactly as Oryx defined it, but is most definitely not as the Witness sees it. They are making each other more powerful by killing each other over and over again, making it so that they are sharper, more complete in the eyes of the Hive's sword logic, and therefore closer to the final shape. They are still practicing what they believe will bring the final shape about. The Witness's final shape has nothing to do with what they're doing there. They are hallowing existence by proving one's right to exist. They are not inviting a sudden end to the universe. That is key. Now, this might not save the Cabal of Torobatl, and it certainly won't save us from Xivu Arath either, but it might be enough to buy us the time we need to defeat the Witness by splitting Xivu's forces away from them. The only real question then is simply this: would Xivu join Savathun or the other Hive? Or would they create their own warband and go independently? It might not even be as ironclad as an alliance. It might perhaps be alright to just see this as a chance to ask if Xivu would stop following the Witness. Either way, Imaru has some thoughts on the matter worth hearing. Take a listen.
It makes sense that Xivu aligned with the Witness. Xivu never backed down from a fight in her life, and the Witness promised her a big one. But the Witness wants to win without fighting. If Xivu had just realized that, I think she would have joined Savathun in a heartbeat. That would have been something to see. I know you might not believe Savathun when she says she's working against the Witness, but that's your own hang-up. She's too clever to serve somebody like that smoky weirdo. Xivu's no dope either, but she's totally committed to sword logic. The Witness was able to manipulate her by telling her what she wanted to hear. It never pays to love something so much you stop questioning it.
Imaru's words here are a cause for a strange kind of hope. They strongly imply that the dedication of Xivu to the sword logic is greater, potentially, than her dedication to the Witness. Perhaps most telling of all, though, is the other thing that we can tell by observing Xivu Arath and her actions. Her great dedication is to the sword logic, but that dedication is formed out of an even deeper commitment to her family. She clings to the sword logic because of her brother Oryx. She clings to it because it was the armor that protected them in times of peril. It made them all stronger. When the time came for her to give her life so that Aurix could be strong enough to defeat Akka, she did so, allowing Aurix to kill her so that he could prove his strength and marshal yet more of his own power. When she was younger, she wanted to grow up to become a strong knight, and she wanted to do this so she could defend the ones that she loved. And her first instincts when Oryx died were that she should seek vengeance, and perhaps that his killers mantled his logic, and that through this he could still live on. These beliefs are founded in the sword logic, but more importantly they're founded in her family, and none of it pertains to the power of the Witness. If there's one thing that we can take away from all of this, it's simply that we might just about be able to convince Xivu that she doesn't need to slaughter us in the name of the Witness, only to slaughter us in the name of her family and the sword logic. But, grim as those prospects are, if we can accomplish only that, perhaps there's just a little bit more hope for our fight against the greatest threat in the universe. But that's all from me for now. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like and leave your thoughts down below in the comments section. Let me know what you believe. Do you think that we might be able to use this differentiation between the Hive's version of the final shape and the Witness's version of the final shape to peel Xivu Arath away from its allegiance? If so, I'd be fascinated to hear about what you believe is going to be the moment that tips it over the edge, and if not, let me know why. Is it something where the witness just has that strong of a hold, or is there another factor that I'm not noticing here? If you want more Destiny lore and want to keep up with the story of Destiny, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership as always is quite enough for me, and that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Porodacia Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.